But yes, today we're talking about Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lo. It is my Pride Month pick. It is my Asian author pick. It just fits a lot of nice categories. And it's also historical fiction, which I don't read very much of, so I was excited to read one that had won like 4 different prizes, I believe, writing prizes. And in the end, I liked it. Actually, what was, like, in one word? What is your opinion of it?
In one word?
Yeah, like, I guess in a few words. I'll say one sentence.
If it's in one word, you say the word authentic.
Authentic.
Very authentic.
That's very good.
What about you, Realm? What's your one word?
Hmm.
Maybe that's too difficult.
Realization.
Oh,
I did not.
okay.
I am not fond of American history. I love history in general, but I'm more into European history. So I tend to glaze over parts of American history post World War II. So this made me very interested in understanding more parts regarding like instances of, I don't know, like domestic policies and like
Yeah.
their feelings about everything during that time. So like I was very like surprised, just given how much like you said, authenticity there was to all this information. Like especially when they read I don't know if anybody had listened to the audiobook, but the post,
Yes.
Yeah.
the girl got
Yeah.
very, very, very like,
Into
you
like
could feel
references and everything.
Yeah,
yeah,
for
everything
sure.
from the cities to the culture to the surrounding area to China's feelings, not China's feelings, but like China's policies and like
Yeah.
their changes and all that stuff. So like it was a very busy time, and just I don't know, it just never wasn't something I was ever interested in until like this. I got to read this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said authentic because I'm a Chinese lesbian,
Mhm.
Chinese American
Mhm.
lesbian woman, and like I think that it was a perspective that you don't very commonly see in
Yeah.
books,
Yeah.
in stories. Even though, like at the end of the day, the story was kind of like predictable, and you could kind of like tell what was going to happen.
Mhm.
Um, the addition of this perspective added something to it,
Yeah.
which I felt like was a weakness to How to Lose the Time More, was that I didn't think what was unique about that book added much to the overall story. I think this one actually did.
Mhm. Mhm. I would agree. My word is, I think, enlightenment. I don't know. I feel like it was like, wow, I can learn something and enjoy a historical fiction. um, yeah, I really I don't want to just echo what you two were saying because I agree wholeheartedly. Um, totally. So, to give a brief synopsis of this book, because we're just jumping into it. This book is about a 17-year-old named Lily Hu. She lives in San Francisco in 1954 during the Red Scare and the Lavender Scare. And she can't remember exactly when the question took root, when she was thinking like that she's like having self-identity issues as she's growing up, and she's not really sure what to think of them until she finally notices her classmate Kathleen Miller, and eventually she gets to walk under the flashing neon sign of a lesbian bar called the Telegraph Club. However, 1954 is just not a safe place for two girls to fall in love. It's not a safe place for Chinese immigrants, and the Red Scare paranoia threatens everyone, including the Chinese Americans like Lily, like I just said. And there's deportation looming over her father, due to various reasons, although pretty much just one reason. And despite he actually is literally
He's a veteran.
he's a naturalized citizen, right? Yeah. So he's literally a citizen of the United States. Lily and Kath then risk everything to let their life see the light of day, says the synopsis of the book.
Yeah, I could tell you were reading the synopsis.
I was and then I wasn't. The Lavender Scare is the McCarthyism gay people are bad scare. It's not as well talked about, though.
Saying that specifically homosexuals were linked to communism,
Yes.
and that any form of not conforming, because that was the theme of the 1950s, was to be
Same.
like the
Yeah.
American way, to all eat the same thing, to, if you try something new, it's exotic.
Yeah.
If you weren't part of the norm, it was considered being linked to, communist tendencies, given that China was changing government as well as the rise of the Soviet Union.
Right.
Mhm. And you also see this divide between not just like white people, like white Americans and Chinese Americans, but also between the various like groups of Chinese Americans. There were like people who've been here in like San Francisco for a long time who had immigrated earlier and were
Mhm.
kind of settled in and had like multiple generational families like growing up here. And then you had families like Lily's, who her mom was kind of like grew up and was born in America, but her dad
Yeah.
is an immigrant from China who came abroad to study and was kind of like a whatchamacallit, like highly educated like person coming into trying like get an education and go back to China.
Yeah. Yeah, but that didn't work out because the
Right. Because
communism
of
and
a whole communist revolution in
Yeah.
China.
so then people that originally planned to go back to China weren't able to, and so they had to make a life in America, which they didn't necessarily want to do, but were making the most of. Or
Mhm.
trying
Yes,
to.
this was very like poignantly brought out with Lily's mom, because according to their culture, being married to the eldest son of a family, she would have a natural hierarchy just overseeing the house, and the house would normally be full of aunts and uncles and cousins,
Yeah,
nieces
yeah.
and nephews, and it
She
was
was like
very
supposed
like
to move back, you know, like you're supposed to like get
yeah,
married
take
and then take your wife back to
mm-hmm,
home
a
Yeah.
country.
long-standing tradition of that, and then no, they had to, although they were fairly known in the community, it had never really been like a natural process to do so, because it's just like how they saw American Chinese, and just how they saw like the work done by Lily's dad. Even though he was a respected doctor, he wasn't really respected in that same
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, he was like respected as a doctor, but also seen as like not part of the like American Chinese American community. And
Yes.
it's like this is a very real thing. Like my grandparents are American citizens. They like took citizenship tests and came here for like health reasons.
Mhm.
But even then, they'll call China their Laojia, which means old home, which
Oh, okay.
like they still consider that like the actual home.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair anyway, though, because it's not necessarily where you grew up,
Mhm.
and yeah, even if it's not safe to go back to your hometown, you still would consider it that, or your homeland, where
Yeah,
you grew
yeah.
up.
Exactly. Like, so yeah, I do find kind of funny,
But
because
like
like
they would still consider like me and like my siblings like because we're Chinese people, we still like belong to China.
Oh,
Even though
okay, yeah.
like we're definitely born here and educated here and lived here our whole lives.
Mhm. That is
yeah,
that's
I,
interesting.
I I thought of like a funny example, like where I grew up, we feel like we have the best food of some sort, and then some people are just like, oh no, we want to get out of this place. We think it's much better, where we go on vacation, or maybe you thought
Mhm.
of another destination. You go to that place, and then they say, oh my god, our food is good. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? My place has the best food. I
Yeah,
don't know what you're
yeah,
talking about, even though you hate it. You just have, to some level, like some homebound respect.
Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I think that's true. And among all of this is poor Lily, who's just trying
Yeah.
to grow up. Um, she's like a senior in high school, and she's always known that she's a little like she's always kind of felt like she didn't understand. I don't
Yeah,
know.
she's kind of like the quiet girl.
Yeah, she's a quiet girl, and she likes space,
Mhm.
which I really appreciated that she was really into going to
Yeah,
space.
you guys have definitely met like this kind of person in your life, like the kind of like quiet person who is very smart but just doesn't like really brag about it and just kind of does their own thing,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, and she has a lot of hometown friends, like people she just grew up with, but kind of based because they all lived in Chinatown, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And that's also super real as like a
oh
Chinese
yeah,
person, like you grow up with a group and then that's just kind of like your crew.
yeah, like that's her crew. Even though
Mhm.
she's realizing that she might be a little different than them and her friend Shirley is really pushy and trying to get her to do everything she wants to do, even though Lily's slowly realizing maybe I have my own convictions and don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Like Shirley just keeps pushing her to like, you want to get a boyfriend and get married and have kids, right? Right? Right?
Right. Let me go speak to Will for you, okay?
Yeah, Will
She's
likes
willing to
you.
take
You
you
guys would make such
back.
a cute couple. Oh my god.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, Shirley is certainly someone, I feel like everyone has a Shirley in their lives
Yeah.
at one point, and you're like, ugh.
I know, my vocabulary is going to change from Karen to Shirley
Oh my
very
goodness.
quickly. Oh my god, you're one of those Shirleys, aren't you?
She kind of was a Karen, huh?
Yeah.
um, but yeah, even the prologue, it really sets up that there's like going to be a lot of discussions about race, nationalism, culture, and gender. And I think it does it pretty well with the Miss Chinatown contest, where they're like Chinese women are trying to appear like they have like the American idealism, but it's still like super Chinese.
Yeah,
And
like they're celebrating it during Chinese New Year, but they're trying
Yeah.
to like show out how American they are for like the American audiences, while also being kind of exotic for those American audiences too.
Yeah.
To be like, oh wow, fancy Chinese, so
Yeah.
cool. We're like model minorities or whatever.
Yeah, we're model minorities, yeah. Which I guess I understand why you would want to appear that way, but it also just makes me mad that people had to do that in general. But
Yeah. But like that's what they had to do at that time.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
if you weren't, you were seen as a communist sympathizer and you would be deported.
yeah,
Just like super fucked.
it's true. Lily goes. There's like a small between the prologue and the actual like beginning of the story. There's like a time gap, because she's pretty young during the prologue, I think. And Lily's hanging out with Shirley, looking through the newspaper and making like crane napkins, right? And she sees a advertisement for the Telegraph Club, and she sees a male impersonator named Tommy Andrews, and she like cuts it out, or she takes the newspaper clipping and keeps it with her. I guess it's, and then she has like a whole other collection of like the ideal male figure in the 1950s, I feel like Marlon Brando and stuff. But Tommy Andrews is different, and she can't quite, I feel like Lily can't quite put her finger on it yet, but she knows, but she doesn't know how to acknowledge it yet. I guess what does this tell us? How did you feel about Lily, I guess, in the first few chapters?
She gay.
Yeah, she gay. Yeah.
Well, she just felt like a conventional, understanding American child. She didn't really feel like she was part of one particular thing. Obviously, we were introduced to a lot of like her family and her values
Yeah.
of it, but she seemed very like run-of-the-mill American in the 1950s. So like I really didn't see too much that made her stand apart, but she was just very but from the beginning she was also, everyone was admonishing her for like liking space instead of liking to dress up and play with dolls. So
Mhm.
I was just like, all right, so she's just unique to herself.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not like other girls.
Yeah.
Unique.
But I don't, at this point in the book anyway, I didn't get any indication that her family like didn't like, was like, don't do that, don't like space. Like her dream.
Yeah, this was like, still like we were still getting to know her.
Yeah, her dream was to like become, or she wanted to go to college to become a computer like her aunt is, because that was a real job for a while.
Yeah. Before they had like, the machine computers.
Yeah, it was oftentimes women who were computers, because I guess they're good at math. I could never do that. I could never do that.
Yeah, that was really cool to find out stuff. I actually I read a couple articles on like the Suicide Squad or the jet propulsion.
Yeah,
I was just like, oh my god, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff actually. And I don't know how they did this in the audiobook, and you two can tell me. They have like chunks of the book are actually just like timelines. It's just like a single page of like a bunch of like timeline things happening.
Oh, they just read it out.
Oh, they just
They
read
read
it
it
out. They
out,
didn't
yeah,
like
just
change it or
said-
anything.
Yeah, they made it in a more narratistic. Okay, it's in their narration, but they made it more
Yeah.
oh, this is the story of, in a more timeline, 1954, blah 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 blah.
Okay.
Like exactly like that, and then
Mhm.
it cut to the conversation. Then it felt like
Yeah.
the conversation
I
went fine.
actually like the timeline bits because it's kind of giving this context of, oh, there's like these big things happening in history, but
Yeah.
also they're adding the timeline stuff of, hey, this is what was going on in these people's lives. Like, hey, this is when like her brother was born, and this is when
Yeah.
their parents met and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of giving this sense of these are like real people living through this real time.
Right.
And yeah, and to give further context to the whole like political scheme, they gave information on the like that famous Chinese scientist who had to be deported back to China, but he was one of the founders of the Jet Propulsion Lab. Like they gave subtle information about
Yeah.
other important people, or that I forgot the lady who had come to visit China, like that they went to the parade for.
Oh yeah.
Madame Chiang Kai-shek.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was really cool.
Yeah, I think it was really nice that they kept that in there to keep the context there too, because the story is about Lily, and Lily doesn't know. She doesn't care. She's a teenager. She doesn't care about that sort of thing.
It's also kind of like she's living through it. It's not
Yeah.
history to her yet. You
Yeah,
know?
it's not
kind of
history,
just
yeah.
the life.
You're right. Yeah, and I think a lot of she's not even aware until she goes to that picnic with Shirley about like that Chinese people are potentially going to be like deported or having their immigration papers stolen away, because after she goes to this picnic, because Shirley just wants to meet with a boy that she likes.
Who's a communist.
Who's a
swear.
communist.
Yeah, who's a guy.
I swear, Calvin should have been like a Todd. He has a Todd personality.
Todd.
Oh my god, it was so. Did not like him.
I didn't get anything from Calvin.
No.
I like literally did not get anything from his personality at
He's
all.
just a rude gossip at the end of the book. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they go there, and like Lily has a good time because they're eating like soy chicken, and it's fine for her. But a few days later, her parents have a talk with her, like, you were at this picnic and you shouldn't have been there because.
Oh yeah, and then she like, it was kind of interesting because you both have like the communism bad and gay is bad like storylines intertwining.
Yes.
And you were kind of like, oh no, did they find out that she was like looking at that gay bar ad? And it was like, no, they're talking to her about you shouldn't hang out with those communist guys.
Yeah, don't hang out with those
anymore.
communist guys. Yeah. And her dad has his immigration papers taken away by the FBI because his dad won't rat out anyone. He's not a snitch. So
He ain't a snitch. Homie was locked tight.
So if her Lily's dad was to like be like checked for something, he wouldn't have any proof that he was a naturalized citizen, which is bad. And he like tells Lily like, we're living in a complicated time, like people are afraid of things they don't understand, and we have to show that we're Americans first to her, because they don't want to seem suspicious, even though they're not suspicious. People were just suspicious of everybody, I guess.
Yeah, they were just suspicious of everyone who's like not normal.
Yeah, anyone
like,
who's not
quote
white.
unquote normal, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to be like straight, white, have 2.5 kids or whatever the average was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
White picket fence, a golden retriever, eats
Yeah.
meatloaf every day, like
Exactly.
casseroles. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And yeah, you're totally right. It's like don't be not white, don't be gay, because like shortly after this, Shirley is like warns Lily about making friends with this girl that she's always been in math class with. I can't say it. And they start having a small friendship form. Her name is Kath, and she wants to fly airplanes, and she is a little different too. Lily's like has the Telegraph Club like advertisement in her like her book, right? And it falls out in the
Yeah, it's like she's trying to hide from Shirley because Shirley's trying to be like, oh no, Will, this
Will,
other,
yeah.
like childhood friend of theirs, asks her out to the dance, and then she kind of freaks out because she's like, I don't like him like that. And she like runs away, goes to the bathroom, as you do when you have someone you don't really like ask you out to a dance. Your immediate thought is escape to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then she drops her backpack while she's panicking, and then Kathleen Miller sees the Telegraph Club ad and also helps her kind of get out of the situation without really replying to Will.
I'm happy they kept Will's parts limited. Like after that, they used him as like a motif for just fitting in and conforming to society norms, and just I did like, I know you said, Toto, that you didn't like Will's voice for the narration.
Oh yeah. Okay, all the male character. Okay, I thought all the character, because in the audiobook they do a great job of the pronunciation. They do a great job differentiating the characters and kind of doing like a Chinese American accent for like even the older Chinese women. But I don't like how they did any of the younger boy characters. They all sounded like this. Like they were like, "Hi Lily, do you want to go to the dance with me?"
Yeah, literally. Hi Lily, do you want to go to dance with me?
Even her like baby brother sounded like that, and I was like, that is not how like a little boy sounds at all.
They wanted them to sound
Now,
like
I must
a dope.
say, the little brother sounded like little
like
brothers,
Frankie.
which
No,
was...
no, Frankie did not sound like a little boy at all. He was like, what? He still had like a deep voice.
Oh, it's funny.
Like little kids don't have that deep of a voice. They haven't gone through puberty yet.
Oh gosh, that's goofy. I guess Will's not really in the book, so it's okay. But
yeah,
for the better.
That's funny. Oh gosh, but yeah. So yeah, Kath and Lily start becoming friends. Shirley warns Lily about Kath, because like
she had a lesbian friend.
Yeah, she had a lesbian
friend.
Jean.
Yeah, Jean. Yes, her lesbian.
Jean is a pretty
friend.
lesbian name.
It really is. I guess it feels like Shirley's entire character is just to be like a Karen, like you said. Like she's just supposed to be the girl who's going down the very expected path and wants Lily to do the same thing. And anytime Lily expresses her own like autonomy and wanting to do her own thing, Shirley's like, no.
Or like the kind of friend who like doesn't want you to have other friends and kind of just tries to control everything you do.
God.
Yeah.
When that was happening, I felt that because I
or
had
like
a
when
friend
she was
who
like, "You're going to the picnic, right?" Or like so manipulative. She was like, because when they went to the picnic, she was like, "You have to go to this picnic. Otherwise like Calvin will think it's a date. Don't worry, Flora and like whoever other guy is gonna be there," and they weren't. It was just like, okay.
Oh, Shirley. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
Kind of like the kind of person who like thinks that like you can't take care of yourself, so they have to do everything for you, and they're just taking care of you.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you were saying you had a friend like that too, Realm. Yeah, we've all had a Shirley.
like Wood did not think like they had some right to think that like they couldn't share the friend group, like they had different friends, couldn't collide, and then they just got like very, very peeved. And I was just like, what makes you have the right to just get peeved that people can be friends with another person,
Yeah.
And then like it wasn't even it never is straight up just anger. It's just more like super passive aggressiveness and snarky comments, and I'm like, get the heck off your high horse. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Kath and Lily get to know each other, and Lily eventually, what's the word? She has the courage to talk to Kath about wanting to go to the Telegraph Club. Like she asks Kath if she knows, like, about it, and she does.
You know what was also really authentic about this book was how bad the lesbians were at talking to each other.
They're very bad at talking to each other, but they're both quiet people. So.
Yeah, they're both quiet people, but they're both like, oh, like she mentioned she knows the Telegraph Club. Does that mean I should ask her about it? No, she probably didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
Oh, she's being so nice to me all the time. Does that mean she actually likes me? No, that can be it. She's just being nice. That's so real. That's also so real.
You know what I also thought was really real? It was the teenage like emphasis on a brief touch of the arm, a brief feel of like her ring finger when I touched hands, or the
Oh
like when
yeah.
teenagers think, oh my god, like she brushed up against my shoulder, does that mean she likes me?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my
holding
God.
hands.
Yes. Oh my gosh, holding hands.
Got gloves on.
It's very realistic for
So
teenagers.
lewd.
Okay, they
so
do
lewd.
actually do some kind of like lewd stuff later.
Oh, they
but,
do,
like,
yeah. But
Yeah, but I was just like, wow, that's actually like how a teenager would feel, like
Yeah.
blossoming into learning something new about love.
Yeah,
you
because
know?
Lily is actually quite sheltered. She doesn't realize it at first, but then like she's actually really, really like sheltered good girl.
yeah, she eventually starts to realize how sheltered she had been. But for a lot of that, she's a very good girl.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's more stipulations with what does happen. Like Kath gets a fake ID for Lily so they can sneak into the Telegraph Club as minors, and this bothers Lily because like it's illegal, but also like it's a fake document, and if it were to be found on Lily, it could be implicated for Red Scare stuff and not just being a minor in a club. So yeah, I don't know. It's a complicated story. There's a lot going on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That did kind of frustrate me that like she didn't really talk to Kath about the whole
It's true.
situation
Yeah.
about the immigration papers.
Yeah, she could have,
True.
because to be real, I don't even think a white person in the 1950s would think about that.
Yeah, what really think about that?
Yeah, they just wouldn't even know that that was a thing that she should be worried about.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't be conscious of it if if they've never been made conscious of it, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
So
and just like it would, I can't say that like she can't be trusted, but like with the scare, everyone may have been to a paranoid state. Maybe if
Yeah.
Kath offhand mentioned it to her parents, and her parents were, like veterans and like was fully into the McCarthyism, they could have, like in a way she had to be reserved to hold, what she had. Like she didn't want to risk any chances of having her family get,
Mm-hmm.
right. Yeah.
in
I
trouble.
think like the good thing about Kath was that at least she like didn't think of Lily as like just a Chinese girl, like
No.
a token Chinese girl, which is good.
Yeah, Kath was actually much more interested in like Lily's like science dreams and things like that.
Yeah.
Like she actually wanted to get to know her
Mhm,
as a person.
Oh my god,
Um,
you're crazy.
She also doesn't use any racial slurs, so there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's actually quite a lot of like I wouldn't call them slurs.
Yeah,
Back
they're not.
then?
Back then
Outdated
they were.
terminology.
Yeah, outdated terminology
Yeah.
is what would be best.
I know.
They didn't like come out and say the N word or anything. But, like,
No, they just use this outdated terminology. For
Yeah,
things, and that.
because that's like once again, it's like for authenticity. It's like to make it feel like, hey, these were real people living in this real time, even though they're fictional characters.
Yeah, I mean, and it's strange. Like there are people still alive that are from this time, and sometimes my grandpa will use some of those words, and I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't. But I'm not gonna like
Yeah.
correct you because you're like 100 years old, literally. But
100-year-old slug father.
right, slug grandfather.
Slug granddaddy.
But yeah, it like hurts every time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess they do end up going to Lily starts to be a little rebel, and she leaves her house in the middle of
I
the
think
night.
that's probably why she didn't tell Kath, because she secretly does want to go, though.
Oh yeah, I think that is why she does want to
Mhm.
go, but she's still
Check
like
out this gay bar.
she's nervous. She's still nervous. She's like, but what if Kath isn't like that, and she's just taking me to the Telegraph bar?
Yeah. Just like, girl, she's friends with a lesbian and goes to a gay bar. Like, what do you want?
It's funny.
Did you guys wish there was maybe one time per book you can hop into the book and be like, yo, girl,
Yeah, yo, girl.
She's into you.
like
Yeah.
she's into you, bro. Get at it, and then just hop right out.
Yeah, yo, girl.
Honestly, it's not even just like this book. It's like any like romance book. Just like
That's very true.
slap him in the face and be like, or even animes, like the fucking like harem animes, like just
Yeah.
slap him in the face and be like, dude, She's this girl's into you.
Yeah.
Stop being so dense.
Stop it.
Or the typical like high school sojo romance. You're
No.
like, just push them into each other. That's what they want. It's okay. Get at it. Goodbye.
Like the hero
Right.
protagonist goes like, "Wait, who's into me?" And you're like, "All of them are into you." That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Just get with one, pick one,
You're betting
true.
1,000, but you can't read the numbers.
or be
Shit.
polyamorous
Or
if
be
everyone's
polyamorous,
consenting.
yes.
Just like do it.
Just do it.
Finish this show already.
It's true. You're right.
True, right? You're 4 seasons into it. Finish it already.
So
I
wait,
know.
I know.
Sorry.
You're
I'm sorry, we
totally
got off on a
fine.
tangent.
You gotta get it. You gotta get it out of your system. It's good. They go to the Telegraph Club, and yeah, Lily's all nervous that Kath isn't gonna show up, but then they both meet under like the street light, and they go, and they meet with some like, I guess they're not that much older than them, but older, like not
They're
minor
like 20
ladies.
somethings probably.
Yeah. And they have a lot of different conversations, like a lot of, I guess, what we would call now like queer language, I guess, about like, oh, Kath is a baby butch and oh, I'm a femme and things like that. How did we feel about this? Because I saw one of the main complaints was that people didn't like that they used the terms butch and femme, even though that's what they would have done back then.
I was totally fine with that.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally what they used back then. Like,
Yeah.
if you're more pissed about that than like how they talked about like black people in this book, not that there weren't any black characters, but like
Yeah.
they did refer to black people sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, you're more pissed about that than how they refer to black people. Like, you have some issues. Like, butch and femme are still used today. They're not like slurs or anything.
No.
And
Yeah,
like
it's just,
back
it's just that
then,
they sprung out of the
Yeah.
terms and now need to use more
Mhm.
clarifying definitions
right.
and
Like back
terminology.
then, that is like how they kind of identified. And that's kind of like the relationship dynamic they were going for at the time. Of course, nowadays you realize like, oh, it doesn't have to be like lesbians are not just like one butch and one femme. There's no like man in the relationship.
No.
Like the whole point of a lesbian relationship is there is no man in the relationship.
That's very true.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, that's just like what they knew. They just knew that a
Yeah.
relationship was a man and a woman. So they're like, oh, well, this is like diet man or light man or like man plus because it's not a man, or you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Not like the other boys, because it's not a boy.
Yeah, and it was.
exactly.
I think it's also just a way for the straight people to like compartmentalize it in their
Yeah.
brains, because it's like,
Because there
oh,
were
that's
like
the
straight
normal
people
way.
coming to see like this, I guess like cross-dressing bar, because Tommy Andrews is like what we may consider now as like a butch or maybe even a trans man, but like at that time
Yeah,
they didn't have that terminology.
yeah, they didn't.
But I do not like censorship for the case of trying to protect others. I think that you should learn
Oh, sure.
history properly.
Mhm.
So I had no problem with them mentioning any of that
Yeah.
stuff. I learned some stuff. So like, why
Yeah.
would I, you know?
I almost found the conversations to be helpful too, because like Lily and Kath could like listen to them and then like be like, oh, that's how things are. And I think Kath understood like, oh, yep, I'm a lesbian right there. But Lily's like, I don't understand still for a while. I mean, she gets it, but she doesn't like realize it.
Yeah, I'm so curious to what you think, Realm, because like you are like, I think out of the three of us, like the furthest from like the characters in this book, because like, you know, like you're a straight white man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did you feel about like the way that, or not the way that these people were portrayed, but like how did you interpret like the experiences that these people went through?
It was so like I have friends who are gay, and I have friends who like members of the same sex, but like
It's high.
I just know it is, but I never really had any reason to delve further into it because, you know, not really in my business. So like go live your life, do what you want to do. But like I said, there was no real resource for me to think about learning what had been the case, and even though I didn't know a whole lot, I felt like it was pretty accurate, you know, because I think that was like the early part of, well, you know, they're out there, so then they can become more flamboyant, and I felt like that personality was sort of portrayed. They're like, it's not that they're nonchalant, it's that they're so, they feel so right about the way that they are that they're just straight up ready to just give you whatever answer. So like, of course, there's like a couple making out in the corner. They just know that they love each other. They just love to do whatever. So like, I felt like that was just like that confidence that people had for understanding who they are, like really came out in the book. And to me, I felt like I learned a lot. So
Yeah, what's some of the stuff you learned? I'm curious. Like, what's something
terminology,
that like you didn't
like I
really
didn't really
think
know
about before? Yeah.
before, like one of the terminology, like butch and femme, like I just really didn't know that was the case. I know like stereotypical stuff from like movies, like oh, that person is butch, like, you know, the stereotypical Harley Davidson riding, flannel wearing, like butch woman would be like the stereotypical. But that was from like in a comedic standpoint, like that was like what people used, I don't know, like 20 years ago to like show
Like
that type of thing.
Yeah.
It was cool that there were clubs now dedicated. Like I know, well, they mentioned in the book that the assembly of like gay, like men or women was like allowed, but still the act of it was still very much not allowed.
Yeah, it was
But
like only if you're like a performer you're allowed to like cross dress or something.
Yeah, and
yes, there is that fact.
Yeah.
That was mentioned in the book that as long as a woman was wearing women's underwear while cross-dressing as a man, they were not. Yeah, exactly. They were not.
So lame.
Yeah, breaking the law, and I was just like, wow, that's very that's very like 50s. Oh, we're just jerry-rigged type of society. But the 50s that they portrayed reminded me of like the 20s and 30s, like speakeasies, sort of like secret society, you know, going against what they believe, not because it's ingrained in them, but because it's what they just feel is right. But then the government, obviously, then becomes more complicated, which is really interesting to see because then there's the mix of different, you know, like East Asian, you know, families, and then like you said, I think the author said that there wasn't very many references to African American gays and lesbians, but there were, like, she knows that there were cases of it. It just wasn't really portrayed well, but like,
or it wasn't documented well because like no one wrote about it at the time.
Yeah, so it's not, I'd say I learned there was much more to their lives during this time than that, you know, like there was a reason to understand how all of this came about. Like I knew San Francisco was a place for, you know, people to be free of, like, to choose whatever they want, but I never really knew why. I just knew one day people were just like, oh hell yeah, San Fran gay central, let's go. You know, it's just like I said, in American history and Americana culture never really like felt right to me, so I just ignored it. But now I don't know, now I had a reason to learn more.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and San Fran is like a huge like hub of like Chinese immigrant culture, Chinese American culture.
Yeah, to be real, I don't know the cultural, like, why San Francisco, but I did know that it was a big hub.
It's because like back in the day, even as far back as the Transcontinental Railroad.
It is okay.
Chinese people would come to California to work here, and then like make money for their families. It was largely Chinese men, because they would work on the railroads.
Okay, it was railroads. Okay.
The gold rush too in California was a big thing.
Yeah.
In fact, that's actually related to what the Chinese people call San Francisco. It's still called Zhoujingshan, which means like Old Gold Mountain.
Oh yeah.
Like that's actually like the Chinese name for San Francisco because they see it as like a land of opportunity for them to like make money.
I did know that. That's a big part of the stupid Nancy Drew game that takes place.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's a big part of it.
Wow.
Nancy Drew's coming back.
Yeah.
It all fits together.
Yeah, that's like the only thing that I knew really, but I was like, hey, it's the words. I know those ones. It's silly. Okay, yeah, so it was railroads. Okay, because yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like in
And then like later on, like a lot of people either like intermarried or they like brought family over when they
Yeah.
were like, oh, we kind of settled here in the States.
yeah, okay, that it makes sense now.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so back. Let me think about the book. So I guess I also thought. I guess with the topic of Chinese culture, I thought Malinda Lo writes. She writes microaggressions pretty well. I thought like when Shirley and Lily go to the they go to the museum to get away from it all, but they can't get away from it all because there's these white people looking at like a Japanese like diorama thing or like a statue of a lady, and they're like, oh look, it's Japanese people, and they're like so annoyed by it, and I can't help but feel annoyed too because it's like don't point at people and yell at them. But just rude. But I think Lily also encounters a lot of racism within the lesbian community too. I don't know, I guess. How did you feel that she juxtaposed like with like normal life and then her life at the Telegraph Club dealing with these types of things?
Okay, as like growing
Yeah,
up as
yeah.
Chinese American, I actually grew up in like Pennsylvania where there weren't a lot of like Asian population back then.
Mm-hmm.
And at my school, like, yeah, I was like the Chinese kid, or people would call me like the Chinese person. And that's kind of real to like how like they were treating Lily at the
Yeah.
club. Like they weren't trying to be mean about it, but they were like, oh, we don't see any like Chinese lesbians or Asian lesbians. It's like she becomes like the Asian one.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of demeaning
Mm-hmm.
as it's very like tokeny.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also think like just like the way that America viewed like Chinese people or Asian people in general was like at a crossroads during this time in history because there was both like, oh, Chinese people are here taking our jobs, kind of like xenophobia, which
Yeah.
is very typical. But then also this idea of like, oh, wait, no, now the Chinese are our friends because they're helping us fight against Japan. And Japan's the real issue
Right.
because of World War II and everything.
Yeah.
So it's like this very weird, like stop judging us based on our race. Like we really don't have anything to do with like your wars and stuff.
Yeah.
We're just kind of living our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say it was very demeaning towards Lily, so yeah.
True, but like you said with the micro like aggressions, like the expressions of the time, like they
Yeah.
literally said, "Oh, I don't see like how you doing, China doll? How you doing, China girl?"
Yeah.
Like it was said in a way where it was just very matter of fact, like you said, not
Yeah.
offensive, just matter of
Or
fact.
it was
That's what
offensive,
it
but it
is.
wasn't them. They weren't trying to be offensive. It just ended up being offensive
Yeah.
because they
Exactly,
really
but they
didn't
just
understand.
exactly they didn't know any better, and it was just
Mhm.
who it was. Oh, hey, how you doing? But also like the girls in the pier that couldn't tell the difference between Chinese and the Japanese
Yeah.
individual, and they just like, oh, cool. You speak English? Hello?
Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone who
Oh,
asked her like,
gosh.
"Do you speak English?" at the beginning, that
Yeah.
was like that pissed me off because it was like she's literally born here. Her mom was born here too.
Yeah.
Like yes, she speaks English.
Yeah. I mean, even back then in the 1950s, I feel like even then it was like maybe you shouldn't ask that. There's been a couple
Yeah.
generations now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just really goes to show like they have never really like spoken to a Chinese person in their life.
I mean that's the other thing. Like, we're reading about this book that takes place in 1954, and I feel like a lot of these annoying things are still happening. These awful
if
things
someone
are still happening.
asked me like,
Man.
"Do you speak English?" to me, I would be pissed.
Yeah.
I'm like, I probably speak better English than you. I edit college essays.
It's
Yeah.
like people don't read enough history, and history repeats itself. That is
I know.
crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
Couldn't imagine.
It's so frustrating because like reading this, I'm like, people still do this. I hate racist people. I guess just as someone who I grew up in a really tiny town, and I would like I don't know, my parents were from a city, so they like taught me to not be, you know, like not like be racist basically. And so when other people would do it, I would yell at them and then I would get in trouble for it, but I'm glad I got in trouble for it.
Yeah,
In the
because
end.
you did the right thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm always bothered by it, but I think it's a good representation of,
Yeah, it's a very real representation of like how people
yeah.
treat us as Chinese people.
Yeah, I'm always like, just treat people like people. Rawr. Although that does remind me, so like Shirley's being like kind of a bee the whole time, but Lily sees Calvin, or she sees Shirley getting out of Calvin's car at some point, even though Lily knows that Shirley like shouldn't be talking to Calvin because he's a communist.
He's a communist.
But Shirley doesn't tell her parents. Lily keeps Shirley's secret. And
yeah, I think this is also really real. Like growing up, like you have those childhood friends that you think are going to be your friends for life, and you really don't have a way to be like, oh, they're toxic, and I like, no, they're still a good person. They were there for me for like the earlier part of my childhood, so I have to stay their friend, right? Because friends forever, kind of thing.
yeah,
That's definitely something very real.
There is that one part at towards the end when Lily reveals that she saw Shirley with Calvin, and then the most hypocritical thing she could have ever said, "I love him," and I just wish Lily would just be like, "Well, I love her. What the hell is the problem with that, dude?"
Yeah.
I was just, oh
Double
my
standard.
god. Well, I think that's the point where I was just like, damn, that's a good story, because I was just like, ah.
I was kind of hoping like they would still be friends and like be able to like keep each other's secrets. I was hoping that was where the story was going, but I'm happy with
Coercion. Yes, absolutely.
It didn't go that way.
No, it didn't go that way. They like stopped being friends by the end.
Yeah, and gradually Lily she realizes that she likes Kath, and they both keep going to the Telegraph Club. At one point at one night, I guess, at the Telegraph Club, they end up going back to Tommy Andrews' like apartment, and it's interesting because like, why did these adults invite these minors to the house? But on different time, I guess. But
yeah, they also didn't know that they were minors.
They didn't know they were minors
because they did have like IDs and went to the bar in the first place.
Yeah, they didn't know that.
But like, yeah, no. Tommy kind of figures out like, no, you are not an adult.
Young.
Yeah,
we're
Tommy's
young and
like, you gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a moment where they feel like, I mean, I think that's the moment that Lily really realizes, oh no, she does realize that she's in love with Kath. And they leave because Lily's really embarrassed because Tommy's like, you shouldn't be in here. You shouldn't be here.
She like somehow ends up in Tommy's room just because she's curious.
Yeah.
While she's like waiting for the bathroom or something, but I think Tommy took it the wrong way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she did take it the wrong way. No, I'm with Lily. I'm a snoop, unfortunately. I try to not be, but I'm snoopy. Like, I don't go into drawers or anything. I just look in rooms.
Look, but then like also like all the other girls at the party are like, so how long have you two been together?
Yeah.
How long have you and Kath been together? And then she's like, oh, we're totally not together. She's not into me like that. And then everyone else is like, yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, like Tommy even says, Tommy's like, have you told her that you're not dating?
Like I said, it's so authentic lesbian. It's like, my goodness.
Yeah, it was kind of cute because shortly after that, because Lily is so like shaken by that interaction with Tommy, that Lily is just like, everything is bad, and she like confesses her feelings, and it's very cute.
And she's a little drunk too.
Yeah, she's a little drunk. As a poor little 17-year-old. Yeah, but it's okay because Kath requites her feelings. And they kisu, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they kisu.
So lewd, but so proud of
so lewd. Yeah, in like an alleyway. And yeah, they're kind of dating from then on. Oh, they are dating. It's just that they have to be in secret because it's the 1950s. But And they explore each other, and it's a lot. I'm not gonna get into detail on that part, but
Yeah, I feel like I'm mixed about that part
yeah,
because, like, I get that that's like a real part of their experience, and like straight romances often show that stuff,
yeah,
even when they are like teenagers.
yeah.
Like they talk about that stuff. Um, I don't know.
I think
I don't know how to feel about this because like sometimes like people will say like, oh, it's not real unless you like do it, and it's not like you're not actually a lesbian unless you actually do it or something. And
Oh,
like,
that's yeah. And I guess the thing is, they didn't have to
I don't know.
go that far, but I think this is a young adult book, and young adult books constantly have like first time scenes like this. So I'm like, it's just par for the course, from my opinion, because they didn't go into like super extreme detail either. Like if they were
Yeah.
like really graphic, I'd be like, whoa, but
Right.
it wasn't. So I understand, because it's also like we can tell we could write a ton, we could have no sex in young adult books ever, and kids
Yeah, but that
still
also
do
wouldn't be
it,
realistic
so,
either. Like,
yeah.
it's
So
something that happens.
it's just something that would happen, and they got a little experimental, I guess, with their
True,
relationship.
and you know, like I thought the lack of description to
Yeah.
me kind of made sense from like a writer's perspective, because even they went into like what they grabbed, how they felt, but they were also saying more descriptively how confused they were and like what is this like new feeling. And to me, that confusion and that like experimental part of it, I think the writing fell right for it to just not be too descriptive, because like does really Lily know what's going on? Kath is
Yeah.
like, sure, but like you're not reading Kath's point of view, you're reading Lily's.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it also kind of shows like, no, they actually do really care about each other. This
Yeah.
isn't just a phase, mom.
Yeah, this isn't just a
A
phase,
phase, Mom.
It's true. That actually brings me to my next thing. At the ends of part, like actually all of the parts in the book, they have like a small like flashback of memories to the adults in the book. This is also controversial. How did we feel about these flashback scenes?
I like them. I think
Yeah.
they gave like different experiences and kind of showed like a three-dimensionality to these other characters, like Lily's
Yeah.
mom and Lily's aunt and Lily's father.
Yeah. Yeah, I personally really liked the one that's from her Lily's dad's perspective, where he's like in the nightclub, but he's like not really there.
Yeah, because he's like a war vet.
Yeah, he's having like war flashbacks.
Mhm.
I like that one a lot. I kind of thought Aunt Judy's were a little boring.
I had to reread that one, but I actually liked it. But
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
second time around.
Yeah. How did you feel, Realm?
I like the scenes. I really didn't. I give them a lot more characterization.
Yeah.
Because when you think of TV and show standardization, or they call it predetermined like ideas, you think of like strict Asian parents.
Mm-hmm.
But like the parents weren't really strict in the first place. You said that they had a strong sense of
Well,
belonging
they were strict,
to.
but they were like very. You understood where they were coming from.
Yeah.
Yes, you understood where they're coming from. You understood that even they were able to relax and enjoy themselves, but at the same time, they had like real world quandaries, and they were often just as confused and unknowingly like understanding of what's gonna happen next as Lily is right now. So I think I gave really good characterization.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just, I wanted to mention this because the top like review, the top like most liked review on Goodreads, oh sorry, I punched my mic, is too many flashbacks to straight people. I was like, oh. I thought they were important though.
I think if you were reading this as like purely a romance,
Yeah.
yes, the flashbacks get in the way, but from a historical context and like giving more context, they're very necessary.
Yeah, I think so too. I think from my personal, I think the only thing that would have made me like the book more, I guess, I like the book. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, I did like the book, but I wish that they would have removed like, or maybe cut in half one of Aunt Judy's flashbacks, and then just gave me like 2 pages from Kath's perspectives. But I know why they didn't do that, because this is a book about Chinese Americans, not white people. So they didn't want to have anything from Kath's perspectives. But because Kath was so quiet, I was like, I just want to know what she's thinking, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a
It's
little
true, because
bit.
there was the point. It could have been perfectly placed at the point where Lily asked Kath, "How long have you known that you liked me?" And she said, "Oh, last year when you helped me solve a geometry problem." And I'd be like, "Oh, perfect cue to flashback. Come on, enough shonen jump, manga and anime do this all the time. They know what's up. You could perfectly."
Yeah.
You
give
wanted
2 or
like
3
One
pages.
Piece level of like flashback.
Yes.
And
Yes. Now I don't want only 8 minutes worth of new content, but I would love to have seen a flashback at that point
I'm
if you
just-
had to.
Oda has spoiled me.
I know. There's a way to it.
Right? Too many niche, awesome characters. Aunt Judy is like bland bread in comparison.
Really, I thought I liked Aunt Judy.
No,
I
no,
liked-
she was awesome. I'm just saying, in comparison to what Oda has given us.
Yeah,
Oh,
I liked
yeah.
her second flashback a lot. I think her first one, I was like, eh?
Wait, what
Okay.
was her first one? Wait, did I like completely sleep through this? What was her first flashback?
Let me see. It's not
I
this
only
one.
remember
The one
them
where
going
they're at
to...
the one where they go to the opium den diorama thing. I liked that
Oh,
one.
yeah, wait. No, I
that's
like
the
that one.
I liked
actually.
that
That's the
one.
I remember.
But that's not the first one. That's
Okay,
the
wait,
second
what was
one.
the first one then? Because I don't remember a first one then. Maybe that one was so bad. I
Oh,
just like,
right,
I have
right,
to
right.
find
The
it.
first
Remember
one,
it.
the first one was, I forgot, them going around somewhere, and then they said
Here you go, I found
it was
it.
along the lines of, "Oh, I'll always find Aunt Judy." Like Francis said, "I'll always find Aunt Judy." And I
Yeah,
think
it's
that-
just that they fell in love, even though Judy was a little older, I think. And that's cute.
oh yeah.
That's cute, but I don't...
Okay, I don't really remember that one.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that one was really bad because I probably fell asleep during that one
It
or
was
something.
okay.
Like, oh my god.
Because they take Lily to a planetarium, and it's nice that Lily got to go to a planetarium because she loves space, but that's like about it. Honestly, that was my only complaint about the book. I was like, this added nothing. But otherwise, yeah. And I wanted
Maybe
to
it was
know...
trying to draw parallels between like their romance and also like.
I
Kat
think so.
and-
I think that was the point. But yeah, because
Everyone
like
was
Judy
on
can't have children, and she still found love anyway. So yeah, I do understand it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I was kind of hoping like she would go live with Aunt Judy because Aunt Judy like is also like a scientist and like
Yes.
shows that she cares and everything,
Yes.
and also is like a little like untraditional, which does happen, but it wasn't like in the best way. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it wasn't the best of circumstances. Yeah, we can get into it. So, one night at the Telegraph Club, they are. Well, I think it's like just before the New Year. They're at the Telegraph Club, and it gets raided. Unfortunately, like that's like a thing that's looming the entire time in the story. But like some people are like, oh, the owner must be paying off the cops or something, but clearly not, because it gets raided while they're in the bathroom, where I think Lily and Kath are in the bathroom, and Kath goes back to her, like, she wants to go back to go get her ID. Like, she brought her real ID there that time. And Lily doesn't see her for the rest of the night. But Lily gets away.
Yeah, like I knew this was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big thing that happened to like a lot of gay bars in the 50s.
Yeah.
And I was just like waiting for when it's gonna happen, you know?
Yeah.
I was listening to this at work, and as soon as that happened, I had to stop. I'm like, oh shit.
No.
Oh, it's happening.
Oh, it's
It's
happening.
happening. I'm like, oh god.
Oh, Faye, jump into the right stream. I see you.
Come on in.
Can she?
I see a little blip in the corner.
Come on in. The water's fine.
It's Faye.
Welcome.
Hello.
Oh my god, you're floating.
I wanted to wait until I knew I could come in before I just popped up.
No. Wait, I'm gonna
No,
make
we're
your
waiting
head.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome.
You want to introduce yourself with the chat?
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
I'm so sorry you had to wait for me.
No,
No,
you're
it's
good.
okay. It's okay. came in right at the climax of the
We
story.
already
Yes.
talked plenty of smack, so we got much more to go around.
Yes.
Okay,
Uh,
hi, sorry.
Hi. Hi, Faye.
Hi.
This is Faye, the fourth member of the Star Select Book Club. Yes. Feel free to introduce yourself. We got to the Telegraph Club police invasion. I can't remember the
Oh,
word.
okay.
The
Yeah.
raid.
The raid. That's the word.
I'm happy that my mustache is actually appropriate now because it's Pride Month. Happy
Yeah.
I
Pride Month, everyone.
know. Yeah, happy Pride Month.
Yay.
Hi, I'm Feyble. I don't normally have the mustache, but it is appropriate for collabs. I am a book fairy and a chaos gremlin, and I specialize in all things comfy and food.
Yes. Oh, that's a
We
great.
should get you a badge for Chaos Gremlin.
Chaos
day.
Gremlin.
I gotta write that down.
But yeah, it's nice to see you. We've been going through the entire plot. But if you just want to talk about the general plot, feel free. Just jump in wherever to give your impressions of it, because we've been giving our impressions the whole time. So.
Yeah. Why don't we let you talk about like how you felt about the book in general?
Yeah.
Because we're getting close to like kind of the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of the
Yeah.
story.
If
and then
that's
we're gonna
okay, I don't
talk
want to put
about
you
it
on the
for
spot.
a long time.
No, you're fine. I did really like it. I think my only quip was the proverbial hair in the soup for me was the flashbacks. And I don't mean to sound like an a-hole, but they felt irrelevant, and they weren't. But like it was like, take me back to where I want to read. I want to read about the sweet little gay girl. Like, please just, I don't care about the flashbacks. I don't care. And that was my biggest issue. Otherwise, I loved it. I kind of hate that it felt so relevant and still so like
Yeah.
hand-holding to current times.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I know.
But it's really, I mean, it has the time old like, do I go my own way or do I stuff myself in a box in the back of my heart and stick with tradition?
Mhm.
And it's the time old story that does that all the time. But I liked it. It was very cute. It was very fun. I mean, it was sad. Like, it brought up Paper Sons.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy. I didn't first of all know what that was. I had to do a Google. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to explain what that is for the chat?
So, Paper Sons, I'm going to loosely explain it because this is how I interpreted it when I read about it. It's something happened and a bunch of people died. Well, a lot of immigrants just found the names of the people that died and then just used their name and just took over that identity.
Yeah, from the
And
San Francisco earthquake. Yeah.
Yeah, the Francisco earthquake, yeah.
Mhm.
And they just started living like that, which is, I mean, you do what you have to do to survive, no judgment, but it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And because of that, they brought in the Chinese Exclusion Act, and it like caused a whole bunch of things to happen too. But they could have just let them be naturalized citizens, but
That would be too easy.
that'd be too easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Sorry, we gotta try a little harder here. Come on.
Yeah, I think something that we talked about earlier before you're here was that we all agreed that like we learned a lot from this book because it's historical fiction.
Yes.
I personally like the flashbacks because it gave more perspectives, but I totally understand that if you're here for the romance, that they didn't feel like they were part of the romance story at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're definitely there for the historical context of the entire book.
Right.
And I thought some of them were good, and I thought some of them were boring, like we just talked about. But yeah,
Yeah, I really liked it. I was very well researched. Like,
yes,
no complaints about the
Yeah.
research.
Yeah,
And like the audiobook did a great job with the pronunciations.
that's good.
All the Chinese pronunciations.
Yeah, Malinda Lowe has like a giant bibliography at the back of the book too. Like you know, it's really well researched.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. We were just discussing like the raid on the Telegraph Club, where they get
Yes.
separated, so then we can get to the sad part of the book, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, shit really ramps up.
Yeah. so the day after the raid, Lily's just like panicking and doesn't know what has happened. She reads her like dad is like reading the newspaper and she sees there's an article on it, and she can't read the article till like everybody's away, or like her parents have left, and so she reads it and starts panicking more but they don't mention Kath at all, definitely because she was a minor. And then Shirley shows up and is a big B to her.
I'm laughing because that's just kind of like what Shirley does. Shirley shows up and is a big baby.
the whole time Shirley
Yeah,
shows up
like-
and is a big yeah. And she like tells Lily that someone saw her that night, or Calvin saw her that night, right?
Was it Calvin or was it someone else?
It was her
like some
friend
other
that
Calvin's
started
friend?
with a W that was
whatever.
a blabbermouth and
Wilson. I don't
Wilson.
remember his
Ugh,
name.
Wilson.
Wallace. I don't
Oh, yeah.
remember his name.
I don't remember his name either. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. Whoever it is, he sucks.
But yeah, Lily's like, they keep like this entire time when Lily's talking to Shirley, and then she's later talking to her mom. Like she keeps being told, like, just say it was a mistake and it'll be fine. And Lily gets angrier and angrier, like, but it's not a mistake. I did this on purpose.
Yeah.
Like this
Someone
was my
pressured you into it.
decision.
No, I wanted to go.
Yeah. And I feel like that's like her true coming of age moment, because she was kind of just a quiet girl that kind of went with the flow, and now she has her own convictions and her own things she wants to do, and she's like putting her foot down.
That's also like so real to my experience, because like when I came out to my mom, she was like, no, there must be some mistake. It must have been like the media or blah blah blah, this something happened or blah blah blah. And I'm like, nope, I'm gay.
It's
Aw.
really bad news for you. Great news for me though.
Great news
Yeah.
for me though, yeah. Oh man. But yeah, Shirley's running. We haven't discussed this because Shirley's B, but Shirley was running for the Miss Chinatown contest, and Lily was like helping her throughout it. But now Lily's not invited to go because she's gay. But
Yeah. Then like there's the insinuation that like, oh, because you're gay, you were like perving on me or something.
yeah,
Oh my god. Don't flatter yourself.
right.
Yeah, you're kind of a B.
Yeah, it's true. And her mom comes home, Lily's mother comes home, and Lily makes the decision to tell her because her mother's probably going to find
Yeah,
out anyway.
because Shirley said that like someone saw her, and also she brings back her scarf that has her name on it, so they very clearly know it was her.
Oh yeah, that doesn't help.
Yeah,
Now
that's
that she's
what
like
it was.
had a falling out with Shirley, Shirley's definitely going to like not stop the other people from spreading the rumors.
Yeah, and Shirley ends up telling her mom anyway. So like, yeah.
Yeah. It was just a B.
Yeah, yeah. So, they have Lily really comes out to her mom and is very honest about what happened. And Lily's mother does not accept it. She just says like there are no homosexuals in this family. There must be a mistake.
Oh yeah. No, I've definitely heard that before too.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, it's like playing bingo.
Oh gosh.
Yep. No, this is like very close to my experience with my
Aw.
parents, so yeah, it's really hit hard.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just glad. I'm okay. It's just that I'm really glad that this is
Yeah.
an apt representation
It
of
was
that kind of stuff.
realistic, I guess.
Mhm. Right.
And yeah, her mom asks, like, "Are you my daughter?" And it's like, ugh, how should Lily react to that? She reacts by running away, but like, how? I never. I mean, maybe I got asked that. I don't quite remember, but I don't know. I probably would have run away too.
Oh, I also ran away from home once. too.
Oh.
Yeah, and I lived on a friend's couch for a while.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what Lily happens to Lily.
I know.
Yeah, she runs away. She goes to Kath's house because she has her
Oh yeah,
address.
Shirley also tells her that Kathleen Miller got arrested.
Yeah, she got arrested.
Oh.
Not
Yeah.
her.
But I think Lily's like, well, she's a minor. Like, they can't keep her that long, right? Or maybe she was let out. So she goes to her house. She's not there. Then she goes to the only other place she knows, which
her
is
sister's there, and her sister kind of insinuates that like their parents also have kicked Kathleen out as well.
yeah. Yeah, they do that. So Lily goes to the only other place she knows, which is like Lana's house, who was like is the partner of Tommy Andrews.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Lana's like, "Well, come in, kid." Just lets her stay.
Yeah. It tries to be nice, but it's clear that she's also like very stressed and very tired.
Yeah, yeah. I think she
Calls
does.
over like another lesbian friend to like just like talk and like try to calm down because Tommy is in jail right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a hard time for everybody involved, really, because yeah, Tommy was in jail. Lily doesn't know where Kath is. She feels like she can't go home. But Lana doesn't want to be mean because, like, she knows she had a fight with her mom or her family.
Mhm.
And she like, lets her make herself eggs. It's just
Oh,
in the
Yeah.
morning, yeah.
And get a big old pastrami sandwich when Claire
Yeah.
comes over.
Yeah.
She was like the cool aunt
The cool aunt.
with like a 0.2 seconds.
The cool aunt who's also
I
grieving
think
a
it's more like
terrible
a big
situation.
sister though, because like she seems like an aunt at first, but it turns out like she's not as experienced and mature as Lily thought they were. They're also like kind of clueless as to what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. And like she stays one night, but then all the it's the Chinese New Year again, so all the family is like coming into town to celebrate the Chinese New Year. So all of Lily's family is there. And Aunt Judy actually ends up finding her at Lana's apartment and taking her home.
Yeah, kind of forcing her to take her home. I was disappointed in Aunt Judy. I thought she would understand.
I know. I feel like Aunt Judy's response is more even-handed than most of her other relatives.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's still not like the one I would have gone with. Like if I was her aunt Toto.
Well, yes, Aunt Toto. Yeah, I agree. But they like I think it's fun. Not fun. It's interesting how the book tried to like represent Chinese New Year still, while Lily's like, I don't know, mentally spiraling the whole time.
Yeah.
Like they describe all the foods that they eat and the firecrackers and the things that they want to do. But then the next day, after like Lily goes back and like basically doesn't talk to her family the whole day, and then sleeps. And I thought it was very cute that her brothers were like, "Oh, Lily's sick," and they like put their hand on her forehead.
Yeah. Well,
And what's her
I
other
appreciate
brother's
that.
name? Not Frankie. What's her other brother's name?
Edward?
Yeah,
Eddie?
Eddie.
Yeah.
Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie's like, you're my sister. Even if you are like what they say, even if you are gay, you're my sister. You're not
Aw.
a freak.
Yeah, he's very cute and nice.
Yeah.
Which was a nice response because I don't. This isn't always the case. I've seen both sides, but more. I feel like maybe 60% of the time, the siblings don't care. Like they're still like you're my sibling. I don't.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, but the parents care a lot more. So that was nice. I guess at least Eddie still loves her.
Mhm.
So ultimately, the decision is that Lily is going to move to LA with Aunt Judy and Uncle Francis because she is not allowed to go to school anymore because she'll be poisoned by Kath if she stays there.
Yeah, because that's definitely how that works.
Yeah, that's definitely how it works.
Mhm. Big old cooties.
Yeah, and it's a bittersweet ending because it's not the worst outcome for Lily because she's going to be close to the jet laboratory that Aunt
Yeah.
Judy works at, and she can get an internship
And it's not like she
there.
got deported or anything.
Yeah, no one got
which could have
deported.
happened, yeah.
But she can't be with Kath, and she's basically just not allowed to express herself the way she wants to.
You know, I like this kind of ending because sometimes these stories, these like gay romantic stories, kind of just end up with like, oh, we went through a lot, but still happy ending, and everything like works out somehow. And that was like my problem with Love, Simon, was like it was just so easy in the end, you know, when in real life it's often not.
and it's like, hold on now, no, you can't be realistic to this point. Get
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, you're right. I did think it was like good, even if it was bittersweet. And in the end, it's okay because both Kath and Well, does Kath? No, Kath doesn't go to college. Kath gets a job working in like airplanes, basically, airplane mechanic, and Lily's going to college to pursue her dreams, and then they get to meet up a year later. So it's not. There's no hope. It's just not the perfect ending, and I think in the late 1950s, that's all you can ask for. Yeah. And that's the book. And then the posts, the historical notes afterwards were incredibly informative and interesting, but that's not actually the plot of the book. So.
No, but it was awesome all the same.
Yeah. How did we feel about the ending? I suppose I guess I gave my opinion.
I mean,
and
there
so
was
did
an
Toto.
epilogue where they do meet up again.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I think there's just a lot of topics, and it covers all of them in a pretty nuanced way. I'd say, and I understand why it won so many awards now.
Yeah.
It was really nice though, cause like I eat literary candy, being romance novels. So those are quick, just dopamine fueled, just sugar packets, honestly. And to read something somber is really nice. It's like a good lemon tart after like Only Warheads or something. I don't know. It was just a really nice, realistic hit.
Like a palate cleanser.
Yeah, it was a good palate cleanser. And like, all the history, I mean, like, it wasn't nice because the history was awful and scary and crazy and everything. But I'm not crying. I'm just sick. I apologize. I recognized that while I was talking. Anyway, but it was a lot, and it was really nice in a heavy way.
Yeah, it was like good to learn about that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah. We had briefly touched on it before, that it's like all of the stuff that they're dealing with in this book, like we're still dealing with today, honestly, which is horrible. But apparently this book only got I don't think it only got picked up, but it definitely got picked up directly in response to the Trump administration. There's like a bunch of articles about it, and I was like, oh well, yeah. It's just showing that, because I think a lot of it was like, oh, the 1950s was a better time, but no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And yeah.
Oh yeah, the same people who go, oh my god, I'm born in a wrong era.
Yeah.
By the
Are you
people
sure
who
about
totally
that?
had polio.
Yeah, it's only because people were only talk about the good parts of the era.
Yeah. But yeah, really solid young adult book. I would recommend it to like most people, honestly.
Yeah, I think it is very good to be able to see this perspective that often gets overlooked in a lot of history and fiction.
Yes. There's apparently a companion novel called A Scatter of Light that came out last year, but it's not about Kath and Lily, or Lily and Kath. But they're in the book at some point. But it takes place in 2015 when gay marriage was legalized. So like Kath and Lily are like 80 years old.
Oh, but are they still together? Oh, that's so cute.
I hope so. It would be cute, yeah.
Like old gays make my heart go like.
Yeah, I hope so.
warm, fuzzy,
Maybe I'll read it
no.
someday. Yeah.
Trips, do you mind if we have a bathroom break, then we give our...
Yes,
our
of
final
course. I'm
thoughts?
sorry, I'm not paying attention to the time. Yes, we absolutely can.
Sorry, I wasn't either. My bladder is, though.
Respectfully,
thanks myself.
let's take a small break. I'm sorry, Faye, you just got here, but it's bathroom break
It's
time.
okay.
And then we'll be back to talk about our ratings for the book. BRB. bathroom break has been had, and we can continue our discussion. Although we're basically at the end now, and we can express our slug and star opinions of the book. Sorry, I feel like
We can
I'm
express our
speaking.
deeper secrets.
Yes, our deeper secrets towards our feeling
Ooh.
towards the book. I don't know. I guess my one last thought. I thought it was neat that the author shared her own family's story and how it kind of was reflected within this writing. I thought that was cool. Like what you expressed earlier, Toto, too. It's like, I don't know, everyone has a different story. And a lot of, I just didn't think about it because I just had no knowledge that there's a lot of Chinese immigrants that plan to go back to China and then weren't able to. I thought that was really interesting to read about. But yeah. So for reference, because we always forget.
We'll have a logo of it one day.
Right? I should just ask Dawn to make one. Star rating is our
Star is subjective.
subjective rating, our
Like
personal
our-
rating.
Idea of how good the book was to us.
Yes.
And slug rating is how much would we recommend it to
Yes, because we're recommending it to the sluglings.
people. And an objective rating.
Yeah, the objective rating.
Mhm.
Who would like to go first?
Do we want to do right to left to give Faye
Sure.
some time on her thoughts?
Sure.
Oh, okay. My
Oh, did I say left or right? I'm sorry, I meant right to left.
no, I'm stupid. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, wait. Oh, that makes it me.
Yes,
oh,
Toto.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm not used to being first. Okay, so I think star rating, I would give this book a 9 out of 10. I had a few issues with it where, like you said, some of the flashbacks were a little bit boring and some of the character motivations felt kind of mixed. But overall, I thought this was an excellent book. I thought it was great representation of both Chinese American and gay culture. I also think that the way the story went, while mostly predictable, did take enough turns to be interesting and keep you on your toes. As far as slug rating goes, I would probably give this an 8 out of 10. I think that if you are not into historical fiction, this is a pretty easy historical fiction book to get into. It's still like mainly about like the story of like this kind of like growing up story of a girl in this time. And the prose is pretty easy. It's not too difficult to read. There's a lot of like dialogue and stuff. But if you're not into like romance stories, or if you're just not that interested in this subject matter, then don't. But otherwise, like even if you have like just a passing interest, I think this book would be a wonderful experience for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess to echo that, I think my star rating is 9 out of 10 too. There were a few things I didn't like. My main thing was I wish that more of Kath's character was explored because she was just kind of there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
She was just there, but I understand that she's quiet too, so that's okay, I guess. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I felt like it read so easy, like it was so easy to just continue reading it, and I don't find that in a lot of historical fiction. So the author did a really good job at keeping the plot moving along while giving in-depth explanations on things. As far as a slug rating goes, I think I'm gonna give it like, I'm gonna say 7.5. I think the half is, I think the demographic that this book is intended for, I think a lot of kids, I guess, reading it will think like this reads like a book that they'd be assigned in school. But I also think this would be fine to be assigned in school for like seniors or something. Like high school seniors.
Mm-hmm.
But I think honestly, if you're trying to get like, I don't know, just an LGBT book that also has a history lesson, you should definitely read it.
Yeah, like I wouldn't call this like, this is a book for like not just young adults. Like, it's a book that young adults can read, but it's a book that would treat them like an adult. If that
Yes.
makes sense.
Yeah, that's
Like, it
I think
respects
that's
their
true.
intelligence and maturity.
It does. Yeah, and I think that's one of the better parts about the book. But I still think it's a 7.5 because I think a lot of people went into it thinking of that, or I think a lot of people going into this will think it's more of a romance than it is. Like, it still is primarily a romance, but there's a lot of other stuff to learn and to experience as well. But I still think you should try it. Just try it. Just read like the first chunk of it, and then decide from there.
Yeah. And I highly recommend the audiobook version because they do a wonderful job doing all the voices and the pronunciations.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of wish I had listened to it, honestly. But it was a good read. Big font size.
Nice. So I am going to give my star rating. I'm gonna say an 8.5 out of 10. I was very pleasantly surprised by this book. Like I said, I have taken long bouts of a break for reading before joining the book club, so you might as well like see the thick pile of dust that was on historical fictions, and this brought even more of a twist to it, given the time period, the demographics, the characters, the adolescent romance. I mean, I'm a sucker for romance as well, so certainly kept my attention. At one point, I did not have as much as attention to it. Maybe like 2 hours into the book, I kind of like hopped here and there, but very quickly, if I was able to stick with it and make sure I finished it, and then from there, at that point, like within the last day or so, I listened to it like the entirety of my work. I had my earpiece in one ear, I had the audiobook in my other ear, I had music playing. Like I was able to finally get into it no matter what I was doing, which was nice. So, and I've like we mentioned earlier, Faye, you weren't here to hear it, but I said like I am a heterosexual white male, so I don't really know a whole lot about the culture behind it, and I learned a lot from an American history perspective and a sociocultural perspective that I have glazed over. Whether it be indirectly or directly, it just like wasn't something I learned, and then like it gave me a better perspective on it. So
yeah,
I liked it a fair
I
bit.
really appreciate that
Yeah.
you enjoyed the book. So. Meow.
Yeah,
Real.
and a real meow. For the slug rating, I would say I don't want to say 8, but I don't want to say 7.5, so I'm going 7.75. It's just what feels good to the heart. I can it's hard for me to just give somebody a book and say go read it, quid pro quo, like exactly as is, because like you said, this is a niche book meant for somebody certain, or like an adolescent group, or like you said, somebody who is supposed to be an adult, but like what does adult really mean? Like what's the emotional and literal maturity level of the reader that you're looking into? What's their feelings on these type of topics? Were they even expecting to read or have their leisure time read into these heavier topics? I can't say for sure like that it's everybody's cup of tea, but I would recommend it if somebody wants something different, which happens to be most of my friends. They like to read something interesting because they want something different from like what they've been touching lately. Then I'd say, yeah, go ahead. Like, this may not be something for you, but I still heavily recommend it to anybody.
Some people are really
to.
into historical fiction romance, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty
Like,
popular.
oh.
Yeah.
And it just like I said, it hasn't been on my radar for a long time. And like if somebody had even remotely close to that topic, if they said they like sci-fi and mechs, I'd be like, well, maybe not down to earth right now, but anything close, I'd be like, well, I actually have something interesting. Maybe you can consider it. I don't think it'd be the perfect fit, but I would say keep it on your radar.
For sure, for sure.
Great book.
Yeah, I think, as far as historical fiction goes, though, like, this was a pretty easy read. There have been, like, some historical fictions, like Trip said, are just, like, awful to read. It feels like they're trying to lecture you.
Yeah, I just read one that was like that, too. This wasn't like that. I liked this book a lot for not doing
If you
that.
ever read like Scarlet Letter back in school,
Oh
like,
yeah,
that book sucks.
yeah.
So for me, star rating, I'm gonna give it a 9, a solid 9. I usually read these books on the break, so I get 3 breaks a day at work, and I usually read them in between that for as long as we have, and it was pretty easy to pick up and put back down. I really liked it. You guys are so nice and concise. And oh well, if it's not really your cup of tea, I'm not gonna go there. It's a 9 on the slug scale. I think everybody should be uncomfortable and should force themselves to be uncomfortable because you're not
Oh.
growing any other way.
That's true.
So I think you should read this to learn a little something, to get a little uncomfortable, and to maybe like be, you know, a little bit more of a different kind of person when you come out the other side of this book.
Yeah, like a more well-rounded person.
That's true.
Yeah,
Hell yeah, hype you up.
This would have been a lot more life changing if I read this as a kid instead of like Great
Yeah.
Expectations.
Same.
Yeah, I would like to ask my teacher not to make me read The Giver. I would much rather read this.
Actually, The Giver wasn't
The
that
Giver
bad.
was emotionally terrifying.
Yeah.
The
The
Giver was
was
just
pretty.
dreadful.
It's
When I
Really?
went back as an adult and I realized there were more books to the Giver series, I cried.
Oh yeah, I read all of them. They made me cry every single one.
Yeah, I wasn't in the emotional state to
read it.
level up the complexities of my emotions through these books.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
wanted like a quick
Fun
read.
books,
We went
yeah.
from like The Giver to Harry Potter, The Sorcerer's Stone. So I was just like, oh, easy
Oh.
money. I can like not worry about anything. I'll half-ass it if I want to. No, like I wasn't able to give my full attention to meaningful books like that at that time. So I would have much rather, like I said, I'm a big history buff. So like I would have
Oh.
much rather given my attention to this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
for
also,
sure, for sure.
yeah, I think it's covering really dark topics in a way that's like not so dark, which is nice. So it's still appropriate to like for kids to read it too, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love for this book to be like, if there's schools that have an LGBT unit or an
Yeah.
Asian American unit,
Yeah.
or some 1950s America unit, this would be an excellent book for them to
Yeah.
read.
Oh my gosh, I wish I had read this instead of The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. That's a book that's.
Oh yeah, the things they carried is like so fucked up. Okay.
That book is horrible. This was
I
so
mean,
much
it's-
better of a book.
It's a book about like war veterans written by a dude who is not an actual war veteran.
Yep.
And kind of just like idolizes this like idea of what being a war veteran is like.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's just bad. But yeah, we all should have read this, except it wasn't out when I was in high school. But that's okay.
Yeah, no. Damn, new generation, get at it.
Right.
Yeah, if there's ever like if I ever like my life goal like is to be a lecturer / professor. If there's ever a way for me to introduce this book into like a class, if I'm able to teach some sort of history class, then like I would definitely recommend it to people. Not that they already have enough going
Yeah.
on their plates, but like I would just say be like, man, just like take a look at this and see how
Yeah.
you feel.
Oh, speaking of books, though, we totally forgot that in the story, she also is like reading like pulp fiction.
Oh yeah, I forgot to
romance,
mention
like,
it.
lesbian romance that has like a terrible ending.
Oh my god,
Because,
yeah,
like,
I
they
didn't know
weren't
that.
allowed
I didn't
to
know
have
that like they were
good endings.
forced to make shitty endings
Yeah.
for lesbian
You couldn't have
romances.
like, if you had like gay characters, they always had to be like a bad person in the end, or they would always have to be punished because otherwise, like, oh no, gay characters being gay and being happy, that is not allowed.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what that kind of reminds me of? You guys ever played BioShock Infinite?
I haven't.
Okay, well,
I haven't played it, but I know of the.
yeah, you
premise
know, like
behind
you very quickly come up into this dreamland of like, you know, land of milk and honey and like very cool thing. It's a very like idolized
Utopia, yeah.
utopia, yeah. And then like as soon as every shit hits the fan, like all I think is the word lecherous, you know, like it's just like, oh my god, like turn the tables, son of the shepherd, you know, he's the devil, and then everything just like goes to absolute nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what that reminds me of.
Yeah, that was a thing. It was funny. I think the most I thought, I guess it's not shocking, but it was good that I think she wrote this book the way she did. I guess from a Chinese American's perspective, because there's like she went out and did her research and tried to find people that were gay and like Asian in that time period, and she found like 2 people. Like, but there were definitely more people. They just, they just weren't out, and she didn't know. So it's important to get that story, put that story into paper, because even if this is historical fiction, it was probably very similar to someone's story in that time period. Yeah.
And it made me think, like, what happens if someone who never got their story written down never had like an Aunt Julie, you know?
Yeah. I feel like that's a lot of history though. Like a lot of people just don't have their stories written. If they're not like straight or white or males, like they kind of just get walked over by history.
Yeah.
That's why, like, even now a lot of people are like, gays are a new thing. They did not used to exist. It's because
You're
people
wrong.
didn't write about them.
You're right.
And trans people existed for like a long time. We just didn't have the words for it.
It's that thing I mentioned where you just kind of stuff who you are in a box and put it in the back of your heart, and you just tradition along.
Yeah.
And that is just not the way anymore.
And I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we live in a time period where we can talk about these things, and hopefully things will be better in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some states things are getting better, and some states they're not. But I'm not going to get into the specifics. But yeah, this book is still extremely relevant today. You should read it.
Yes, and now I hate the name Shirley.
Oh, surely you don't mean that.
Oh, Shirley, I do, and don't call me Shirley.
Oh.
I show up late, I make a bad joke, and I leave.
It's good.